We create the entire universe out of nothing, beyond space and time, which we cannot measure while we're in it. The universe can be created and unfolded in an instant, and it all happens outside of a perception which we integrate within our human consciousness. We all share the same photon within us, and that photon is shared among the entire universe. It's not a particle, because a particle implies a portion, and a photon is a quantum form of entropy and reverse entropy simultaneously. It's a disorder that leads to order, and an order that leads to disorder. If you are able to transition your consciousness in this reality from your body through meditation or psychedelics, this becomes very clear that you are absolutely not what you appear to be in physical form. That is only the illusion. What you are is so far beyond that physical form that you absolutely can't fathom it because you are in it. The eye cannot see itself except through some type of reflection, and at that point it is looking at something different than what it actually is because it is being translated through another medium. You are attached to a template which you cling to in your current state of being. Pop out of that state and you instantly see the patterns that you have attached to your limbs, head, torso, internal terrain, etc. Those patterns are filled with memories of experiences in this life, coding in your DNA from your ancestors of who you once were. You've attached to a pattern to create all of these, and they are very precious to you at this time, so you can enjoy this body on this planet. But if you try for even 1 second to separate your consciousness from this body while you are still attached to it, it's something that cannot be explained in words when you come back to it. You can certainly try, but language is not capable of really explaining it. And there are patterns at every stage of human life and the Earth's consciousness itself that are different from the patterns at other stages. Our biology and epigenetic triggers within us guide our behavior across these different stages. We can observe something as complex as individuality and start to break it down to see what a beautifully engineered system it really is. Because the complexity of what is the universe is what is happening within the cells of our individual bodies. There is no difference between those two things except for the size of the system. Variability between individuals is often attributed to epigenetic differences or exposure to different environments and ancestral DNA. That's why one life form or planet within a galaxy may behave very differently from another, because it has its own set of rules it has set up for the consciousness of that system. You have different gravitational waves and forces, physics, and life forms on other planets that are different from our own here on Earth. It's all a reflection of the energy within the system. And within the system, we can see a lack of order or predictability in what we would define as entropic states. But there is also as much the opposite of that, which are negentropic states, which are what we perceive as more order, organization, structure, as we see in the human body. Because the human body is really no more of a negentropic state as is, for example, our star system or our galaxy, because that is all created simultaneously within a specific consciousness that designs it. It's the contrast of entropy and negentropy, which each the other are mutually dependent. So the more solid and dense a reality is, the lower the entropic state, and the less dense and more ethereal an energetic state is, the higher the entropic state. So the greatest state of disorder happens when consciousness is less dense, not more dense, because the particles that create matter itself are observed to be more ordered in density, and that is why science observes entropic states at the most microscopic levels as positive when disorder is high and negative when disorder is low. Human evolution, as we understand it, is largely based on the development of these states within the environmental adaptation in our planet and star system, not just random mutations as we've been led to believe through Darwinian concepts, which are all theory regardless. The Big Bang implodes as much as it explodes. We created the Big Bang as much as it created us. It was entirely based on supporting a dense consciousness that was invited by trillions of planets and galaxies, each one with a unique relationship within that star system. It is ultimately all disorder which births order, and vice versa, depending on the magnifications of the system we are observing. We are simply more complex beings expressing the same consciousness that our bacterial or cellular ancestors were expressing billions of years ago. We just express that consciousness differently from our human form. The genome is not static, and change involves alterations outside of the DNA sequence. So let's apply this to an everyday human. What the human being sees, or has been taught to see, in front of them is that disorder should be ordered. That is the linear mindset. In the quantum realm, they are both the same thing. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 in a linear system. But 1 plus 1 is equal to 1 in a quantum system that represents a relationship through a very different dynamic that is complementary, reciprocal, unrelated to cause and effect, supported by Newtonian physics. The quantum realm is a place where time and space work very differently from what scientific investigations are capable of interpreting at this time. So, if we want to understand order and disorder more within human populations, it is necessary to embrace how they cooperate with each other to shift a specific consciousness. On the planet right now, we have a very high state of order within the political landscape, social engineering, the military and pharmaceutical industrial complexes. They all are created with very rigid control mechanisms in an attempt to decrease the entropic states, which are rapidly escalating because the consciousness has shifted. The new world, the new shifts in consciousness are highly entropic states, which cannot be reversed at this time. It's a snowball effect. This means as the world attempts to order more, control more, restrict more, censor more, and make everything align with a perceived political and social correctness, it will become inevitably so rigid that a reciprocal consciousness is forming on the other side of this equation, creating more freedom, more flexibility, more laxity, more kindness, more love, more generosity, because it has been invited by the opposite pole. Do you see how beautiful this process is? How it works in tandem to bring you what you have been asking for so long? Because it will all reflect in your life. The way you do things, see things, interpret things, the way you perceive everything you have considered negative, disruptive, uncomfortable, malevolent, evil, has brought an energy to this planet that is going to change everything, and we could not have done it without it being introduced into a system that invited incredible change in advancing our species. You will act more based on observing both order and disorder simultaneously, appreciating its effect on human consciousness, fully embracing the what is rather than what should be, acknowledging the small changes that are creating grand shifts in the way we feel about ourselves and others. It's here. Look no further than the leaders in power around the world and who they represent to see this in action. Order leading to a disorder that will fill your heart with love and compassion and a willingness to observe everything you see as perfect and in complete synchronicity with what you are.